Hey, what's going on, Isaias?
Hey man, what's up?
Oh, is this your Airsoft AK you got over here?
Yeah, just a little something when I need to go to the fields.
It's looking a little plain. It's looking a little simple.
Yes, that's the way I like it.
I have an idea. What if we took this bad boy and we stuck this nice optic on the top?
No, we're not doing that.
Oh, come on, it looks sick.
No, I left it plain for a reason. It looks best when it's plain.
Ugh. Oh, you back from the field?
Yeah, I just got back. Had a grand old time.
Oh, very nice. You know what would make your experience even better?
What?
You take your Airsoft AK, that's super plain Jane, and then you take a laser box right there. Doesn't
Absolutely
that, dude,
not.
that looks so sick.
No, that looks cursed as all heck.
Come on.
No, I'm gonna take my AK before you do anything else to it.
Bro. Need some help there?
Oh, actually, that helps a lot. Actually, looks a lot. Hey, wait a minute. What are you doing? I know what you're trying to do. Get out of here. My AK. Whew, that was a hot one today. What are you doing in my car?
Come on, man, grenade launcher.
No, I'm not.
If you're not doing a red dot, at least do a grenade launcher.
I'm not accessoring my AK. Get out of my car. So yeah, the LWT honestly is a fantastic pick for pretty much any type of player. All right, so we got the Airsoft replica and we have the optic. We're putting that all in for a grand total of $269. Nice. You want to do cash or card? Card. Thank you. Just put this in real quick.
Actually, I got this for you. I think it'll look pretty sick on your AK, wouldn't it?
Dude, are you serious right now?
Well, I think it'll look nice.
Did Boaz set you up for this? Let me be clear. I'm not putting anything on my AK. You know what? Here, take this and then go. Leave your permaband out of here.
Zeus. Foregrip. Come on. You're not gonna do anything to your AK. At least just a foregrip. Come on.
Dude, I'm just trying to help you, man. Where are you going? Hey, come back.
Something that we get asked a lot and commented on quite frequently is the amount of stuff that are on our Airsoft replicas. Like, for example, what is it and why do we need all this stuff for your Airsoft loadout? What's going on, Mail Gang? Boaz here, and today we're gonna be talking about our Airsoft replica setups, all the GAC and the accessories on them, and why they're important and what purpose do they serve for your Airsoft loadout. And of course, first and foremost, stuff looks cool, man. At the end of the day, with Airsoft, we usually try to replicate stuff that we see in movies and video games and in real life, and we try to replicate it for our hobby. And one thing that we always talk about is building out your loadout is an essential part of the Airsoft hobby. And just, you know, dressing up your Airsoft replica, having it look super decked out and cool is a big portion of why we enjoy Airsoft as a hobby. The first thing that we're gonna be talking about in our Airsoft setup is going to be the optical suite. Basically just like the red dot sight and or optic that you want to run, plus some of the accessories around it. So why is it important that you get in red dot sight or some kind of optic for your Airsoft replica? Well, if you're going to be playing Airsoft with other Airsoft players at an Airsoft field, at this day and age with how affordable and widespread they are, there's kind of not much of an excuse not to run one out there. It just gives you so much more speed and consistency, especially when it comes to shouldering your Airsoft replica and taking the first shot. It just gives you so much more of an advantage compared to whether you don't run any sights or if you just run the standard flip-up sights. It just takes a lot longer to acquire your sight picture. So having an optic, like I said, in today's day and age, not really much of an excuse not to run one. So we have our optic here, but what about this guy? We get a lot of comments about something like this. A lot of these higher rise mounted risers, a lot of times when you buy an Airsoft optic online, especially airsoftgi.com, usually they come with very low profile mounts, and a lot of Airsoft players, especially the beginner ones, they just kind of live with it and it doesn't really do them many favors. So we're going to be talking about why we like these big mounts for Airsoft specifically. Now that we talked about the benefits of running an optic on your Airsoft setup, we're going to be talking about now the elephant in the room, which is this giant skyscraper of an optic mount and why we use it and we see it in Airsoft today. Well, the reason is actually two reasons. And the first reason is that the Airsoft community and the Airsoft marketplace largely follows the trends and the needs of the larger military and defense industry. So in the past couple of years, we've seen that a lot of military operators, a lot of people in special forces groups, they have an increasing need to be able to aim down their optics, aim down their sights while using night vision. Night vision is a very bulky piece of equipment, and using traditional height optics isn't really gonna cut it for you, especially when you try to aim down your sights while wearing your night vision goggles. So that's the primary reason as to why a lot of these larger optic mounts exist today. So yeah, the airsoft community follows the trends of the military and defense industries. That is no secret, but how does that benefit us as airsoft players directly? Well, the reality is the vast majority of us airsoft players, we like to run a lot of face protection, whether or not you're running a full paintball mask or some kind of sci-fi looking cosplay mask, or if you're just a normal player who runs just the goggles and the mesh mask. At the end of the day, it adds a lot of bulk to your face, and it really hinders your ability to aim down your sight while you are running that face protection. Even with an optic with a standard height riser, it's just not really comfortable to do. You have to crane your neck, move your head around in awkward positions to find that sight picture. So with a higher rise optic mount like this Atlas Custom Works, it just gives you a very noticeable advantage just because of how higher it is up on the airsoft replica. Aiming down your sights, it just accommodates for that extra bulk on your face, which is why personally for me, it's pretty much all I ever run now. So pretty much every single airsoft replica I own in my own collection, it's using some kind of optic riser of some sorts to bring it up to a more comfortable height so that way I don't have to crane my neck as much when I'm using it on the field. I don't want to get too bogged down in the weeds when it comes to the jargon and the technical specs of these newer higher ride optic mounts, but there are three very popular variants out there right now on the Real Steel and the airsoft marketplace that I think that you should know. So the first thing is going to be the Unity style, or what we call the 2.26 optic mount, which basically all it does is that it'll take your optic from your mounting point here, let's say right now on this upper receiver, and it's gonna raise it up 2.26 inches high. The second option is a little less common. It's the 2.5 inch riser, which we have seen a lot more companies start to come out with that ride height. So again, in the same principle as a Unity mounts, it just takes your optic, raises it up 2.5 inches. And finally, we have the 2.91 center line, which is what you see here with this Atlas Custom Works mount. So it'll basically take your optic and again, raise it up 2.91 inches. I would recommend this for those who like to play with very bulky paintball masks or dye masks. It just makes aiming down your sights way easier. The next piece of kit that I want to talk about is going to be PEC boxes, or laser aiming modules, or what we call LAMs in short term, and why they're important on your airsoft replica, because we do get a lot of questions as to why we run these boxes on our airsoft replicas. Well, first and foremost, like we said earlier in the video, it's just a trend of just the airsoft marketplace and the airsoft community following the trends that we see in the military and defense industry. So a lot of times, a lot of players will just put on a PEC box because it just looks cool. It makes your airsoft replica look way more serious by just having this nice little laser box on it. But now we're gonna talk about the practical uses that you can get out of it on the airsoft field. The vast majority of airsoft PEC boxes will come equipped with some kind of laser module plus an onboard flashlight, so you can use those tools to your advantage out on the airsoft field. In my opinion, if you're an airsoft player who largely just plays daytime weekend games at your local field, the use case of an actual PEC box for practical reasons is going to be very niche, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt. But let's say that you're playing a game during the nighttime, or if there's some kind of nighttime game that your airsoft field offers, or if you play indoors where it's poorly lit, I think sometimes having a laser aiming module can come in handy. A lot of these will come with high visibility green lasers, so it'll be very easy for your teammates to pick out if you just point to an area maybe where you guys want to move, or if you want to hold down a hallway and maybe possibly intimidate an enemy player on the other side of the field. You know, having a nice green laser just to flag off an area, sometimes it tends to do the trick. Also, with a weaker flashlight, or like these weaker onboard flashlights on a lot of these PEC boxes, it's very good, especially in a low light area. If you don't want to draw too much attention for yourself and you just want just enough light to help you navigate through the dark portions of the field. Generally, in my experience, it tends to help a lot and draw a lot less attention than compared to using a full-on dedicated bright flashlight. The final and probably the most niche application for a PEC box in Airsoft is going to be using it in conjunction with night vision. Like I said several times already in this video, the Airsoft community just follows in lockstep with the larger military and defense industries, and in real life, real PEC boxes emit powerful infrared lasers that operators can see only with night vision, and it helps them aim faster in real life when you use night vision goggles. Now, in Airsoft, there are a lot of times when, let's say that you're in a milsim game, or if you're in a larger milsim event, sometimes you will get access to night vision equipment, and having some infrared capability on your PEC box is gonna really help you and your team out a lot, especially if you have a whole squad of guys running night vision and you're running night vision yourself. A lot of times it's just going to be faster to aim with your infrared laser on your PEC box compared to trying to find a sight picture through your optics. Some situations it might be more advantageous just to get a sight picture through your optic. Other times it just might be better and easier, faster, more convenient to aim with your PEC box laser. And additionally, if, like I said, your whole squad is using night vision, it's very useful because it's very easy to see what you and your teammates are aiming at or looking at, and it just helps your squad out by that much. So like I said, very niche application. I think a very small portion of the Airsoft community actually take advantage of Airsoft PEC boxes to its full potential. But in the most part, 99% of the times, we just like to mount PEC boxes on our Airsoft replicas because it looks freaking cool. Now we're going to be talking about some more practical accessories that we actually recommend the vast majority of Airsoft players to have on their Airsoft loadout, and that's going to be a good flashlight. So at airsoftgi.com, we have tons of affordable and very usable flashlights that you can easily mount onto your Airsoft replica. So why do we recommend having a good flashlight? Well, the reality is a lot of Airsoft fields, the lighting just really sucks out there. Even for us in California, even though a lot of the outdoor fields have great visibility with a lot of sunlight, a lot of these Airsoft fields will also include buildings that are not lit. So because of that, a lot of times if your eyes get adjusted to a sunny environment and then you walk into a building that is not lit, it can get very dark pretty quickly. And so a really easy way to remedy that is just to get a nice flashlight that's mounted to your Airsoft replica so you can really see what you're aiming at. Additionally, running a nice bright flashlight, especially for you indoor players who understand this concept very well, if you just aim a really bright flashlight at an enemy player, you can definitely get the deer in the headlights effect on them. You can really get the jump on them, have them to just subconsciously freeze up a little bit, and that will give you the extra second that you need to get on sight and tag the enemy player. Having a good flashlight on your Airsoft replica isn't just useful for blinding enemy players on the field, it actually helps you stay safe while you're playing out there, because like I said before, there's a lot of Airsoft fields where the lighting just isn't the best, and in dark areas it's very easy for you to trip, fall, or bump into something accidentally. And so having a good flashlight on your Airsoft setup is going to go a long way and help you stay safe while you're playing out there. The next Airsoft accessory that is surprisingly very functional is going to be a mock suppressor. So mock suppressor, like in the name, this will not dampen or decrease the sound or signature of your Airsoft replica. It's just designed to look like a suppressor, but it doesn't really do anything except make your Airsoft replica look cooler. However, the Airsoft community has found a way to make this mock suppressor very, very useful for your Airsoft setup. So with the mock suppressor, there are two main benefits to running one on your Airsoft replica. The first being is if you decide to run a longer inner barrel to give your replica more range and accuracy, it's a lot easier for you to go out and get a mock suppressor, attach that bad boy, and be done with it. The other benefit I think a mock suppressor will give you for your Airsoft setup is going to be something called standoff distance. And so one thing that I notice a lot of Airsoft players do is that when they're playing Airsoft, they will immediately bum rush to a piece of cover, they'll hug it and make physical contact with it, and then they'll peek out while touching that piece of cover. Now, one thing that I found that doesn't really do you any favors when you do something like that is that you actually end up exposing a lot more of your body when you're trying to target other enemy Airsoft players on the field. And so for me personally, I try to run mock suppressors as often as I can on all my Airsoft replicas because it gives you that little bit of length, and so it kind of forces you to stand back a little bit away from that piece of cover. And when you do that, just by how you angle yourself and with some practice, you can actually learn to expose yourself a lot less when you're out there on the airsoft field. Obviously, there are a lot of airsoft players who don't use mock suppressors and they can still manage to get that correct standoff distance, but it's just personal preference at the end of the day. I think mock suppressors look awesome on airsoft replicas, and I just use it to my advantage however I can. The final accessory that we get a lot of questions about are going to be the use of vertical foregrips or hand stops on your replica. Do you need one? Should you get one? What kind is better than the other? Yeah, we get a lot of questions about that when it comes to accessorizing or setting up your airsoft replica. And the honest truth is, do you need one? No, not necessarily, but my opinion, I think it really helps give you good muscle memory and a proper reference point to give you more consistency when you aim down the sights of your airsoft replica. Having a vertical foregrip or a hand stop of some kind is going to give you some really good advantages when you put it and start using it on your airsoft replica. The primary reason is that it'll give you a nice visual and tactile reference point for your support hand. So the hand that is not on the trigger of your replica, that is your support hand. And a lot of times if you don't run a foregrip of any kind, generally you'll notice that you're gonna shift your position of your support hand around a lot, especially when you're trying to access things like the pressure pad on your flashlight or your laser aiming module, things of that nature. A lot of times you'll notice that you have an inconsistent position for your support hand. So having this vertical foregrip or a hand stop, it will just, again, help build consistency over time as you continue to practice and use it. It will be in the same spot every time, even without my support hand on it. I can immediately just get on exactly where my support hand needs to be, and I can build a nice consistent sight picture with my optic, like I said, over time with practice. And a lot of airsoft players will do this intentionally, you know, like they'll be sitting in their room, you know, they'll be adjusting the position of their foregrip or hand stop and just practice getting on sight with the replica just to help build that consistency, because it'll just give you that much more an advantage on the airsoft field. Now, to answer the question of which foregrip or hand stop should I get one that's completely vertical, or one that's angled, or some kind of hand stop? Which one is best for me? Well, at the end of the day, it's completely up to you. It's totally your preference as the end user. Some people swear by having a completely vertical foregrip. Some people swear that an angle one is the best, or just only having a minimal hand stop is the way to go. In my opinion, for me personally, I mix and match my foregrip and hand stop setup all the time, depending on the size or the shape of the replica. Sometimes it just makes more sense for me to run a completely vertical foregrip, or sometimes it just makes more sense for me to run a more minimal hand stop. It's completely up to you, and also the size and shape of the airsoft replica. And keep in mind, there is no one right answer for all the solutions that you need for your airsoft setup. So here in my hands is another example of a fully set up airsoft replica. As you can see here, it's a pretty similar looking setup to the previous one that I've been showing on video. This one is the LT31 Raider, I believe. This is supposed to be a lookalike of like the Mark 18 Mod 0, which is pretty sick. Up here we have a red dot sight without a riser. So I guess the player, whoever uses this replica, just decided that it's not beneficial for them to run a riser, who knows. But it's nice, you know, just having an optic in general is just help you get on target way faster on the field. Next up, we have the laser aiming module. I can kind of tell just based on the position, this person might be a left-handed player just by the setup of this laser here. So they may or may not be using night vision equipment, or maybe they just thought that having a laser aiming module on this thing looked really cool. Next up, we just have a flashlight. Like I said, very important to use on the airsoft field. It's just a very good thing to have, whether it is to blind enemy players or to help you navigate through dark spaces on the field. Again, it's just something that we highly recommend. Up here on the front, I believe this is what we have here is a tracer unit. So probably this person uses, instead of just a mock suppressor that doesn't do anything, there are a lot of tracer units that light up specialized glow-in-the-dark BBs, and they take the form of a mock suppressor. So that's really cool to see. And I guess this player likes to use glow-in-the-dark BBs. They like to shoot laser beams out of their replica. And finally, of course, they have a vertical foregrip, which is nice because now that I'm noticing, if I transition to my left hand over here, everything is nice and in place. So with this flashlight, it's button activated. So with a thumb, they can just activate the button on their flashlight, And with the laser aiming module, they kind of have easy access to the buttons here with their support hand. And of course, it just brings it nice into one consistent package, because now with this foregrip, it stops my hand exactly where it needs to be, and I'm able to easily have full access to all my accessories out here on front. So I would say this is a pretty well thought out airsoft replica, but let's take a look at a couple more. Next up, we have an MGC4 MK1. I believe this belongs to somebody on the Airsoft GI team, not exactly sure who, but this is an interesting setup as well, because number one, they have their optic, like I said before, but it's on a riser. So it's on a 2.26 inch riser. I believe this is one of the PTS Unity mounts. It just makes getting on site, yeah, so much easier. I can just easily bring it up to my eyes, and especially if I'm wearing bulkier face protection, it'll just help you that much more. And then they have a PEC box. I believe this one is just the basic PEC box. This one does not have any infrared capability, but I'm assuming it's just on there for looks, because like I said, it looks pretty freaking sweet. And up here on the front, we do have a mock suppressor, and this one I believe is housing a longer inner barrel. So I believe whoever is using this replica probably plays outdoors a lot, and they want to run a longer inner barrel for that bump in range and accuracy. And finally over here, as you can see on the handguard, no hand stop or foregrip. My opinion, that's kind of a mistake. I think that they should probably put on something to kind of give you a nice reference point. But I guess the saving grace of the Mark I is that there is a little bit of a ramp here, so it just gives you that nice reference point with your index finger on your support hand, so it just kind of knows where to land a little bit. But in my personal opinion, if I were building this out, I would have easily put a flashlight and a foregrip of some kind on this replica to make it fully decked out. The final setup that we're going to be showing you here today is going to be something a little different. This is the Vorsk VGS1X, absolutely sick airsoft replica. It's gas blowback and it's a blast to shoot. And this is something a little different, obviously, because it's not an M4 platform. I've already shown you like 3 different M4 setups. You guys are probably tired of seeing M4 setups. So this is something a little different. So just kind of analyzing it here a bit. Whoever set this up obviously knows the basics. So they have a red dot sight here, and it's on a long or a tall riser. I believe this is the 5KU riser that we sell at airsoftgi.com. And I believe it's like a 2.3 inch ride height for the optic. So my guess is probably this is going to be used for a lot of indoor applications, a lot of indoor fields where you have tight spaces, which is probably why they went with such a small replica like this. And if they're an indoor player, more than likely they're probably wearing a full face mask. So having that taller optical center line is going to help them a lot when it comes to aiming down their sights quickly. Next up, looks like on the included dive board of the 5KU mount, it looks like they do have a PEC box. I'm assuming here there's no pressure pad or anything on it, so I'm assuming here it's probably on there for looks. And I'm just gonna agree with them. Hey man, like if it looks cool, I mean, go for it, man. I mean, in my opinion, I think this looks absolutely sick on the VGS1X. On the side, I can see that they do have a nice small flashlight. And again, probably because they're an indoor player, having a nice source of light, especially when they're running around in dark areas, or if it just comes to blinding enemy players, it's just very useful to have on your airsoft replica. And then down here, I noticed the nice, large, fully vertical foregrip, probably because there's not a lot of space to grab the replica with your support hand. So having extra real estate with that larger foregrip is probably gonna help them out a lot when they shoulder this thing downrange onto enemy players. And finally, this is the included mock suppressor on the VGS1X, but I'm just gonna shoulder this thing right now. And man, it is very comfortable to hold in the hands. Like I'm very easily able to have a nice, perfect, large reference point for my support hand. I'm grabbing it in the same place every time. And if you come to the other side over here where the flashlight is, with my support hand, with my thumb, because it's just resting up here on the top, I'm easily able to actuate the pressure switches on this thing to have a quick access to light to blind players, or if I just need to turn it on momentarily to see where I'm going. And finally, the optic mount over here, nice and high. If I were to run a full face mask or a dye mask, I'd have no problem aiming down sight with this thing. So this is probably something that a more mature or seasoned airsoft player probably has set up, and I can definitely tell it's, again, very well thought out with this thing. And it's just another example of why we put the things that we do on our replicas. So are we saying that you need to have all of this gack on your airsoft setup? The simple answer is no. Airsoft is a hobby and you should enjoy it in any way that brings you the most happiness. If running a completely slick setup or having a very minimal setup makes you happy, makes you the most effective on the field, then by all means, go for it. But for some people like me, you know, building out an Airsoft replica to the nines, you know, putting accessories on it, building it out to make it look aesthetically pleasing and functional, for someone like me, it's a huge portion of the hobby. But let me know what you guys think below. Are you someone that likes to deck out your Airsoft setup to the nines and make it look as cool as possible? Or are you someone that likes to keep things more minimal, more slick, or more low key? Again, sound off in the comments below. If you like what you're seeing, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that bell icon to get notified of every time we upload a new video. And if you want to directly support us, the best way to do so is by going to airsoftgi.com and getting all your Airsoft needs there. Doing that will help keep these lights on and that camera rolling to give you guys more of this awesome free content. My name is Boaz. We'll see you next time, Mayo Gang.